Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Rectified Podcast. Today, my guest is Mike Pilkington, one of the co founders of Key Sparkling Water. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Mike, let's start. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, your brand, your product, what's Key Sparkling Water, and, the whole story mainly.
Oh my goodness. So, where to start? So, I think I'll start with Key Sparkling Water. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, I was able to find a great deal of success, I think, through two different parts of my career, which kind of led me to this spot. And my cousin and I, who had been successful finance executive for a very large company at a very young age, got to a point where he realized that he had been chasing this dream and got there and felt somewhat empty. I'm in a situation where I've made some life changes where it makes sense for me to introduce a product like this into the world. And so that's just kind of a high level, not very direct ROIs, but Key Sparkling Water was formed. And we sat there and said to ourselves, like, how can we make something that feels extraordinarily authentic and purposeful to us that we can bring to the consumer and create a really good experience for them? So Key Sparkling Water was formed. And
Mm-hmm.
I can take this conversation in a lot of different ways, but I think all products
Yeah.
exist to solve problems. And for us, Key Sparkling Water solves some very direct problems for a consumer in a market that a lot of people will tell you is very crowded.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see a lot of entrance
Yeah.
into a market as being crowded. We see problems that need to be solved. So we developed Key Sparkling Water to solve very direct problems for the consumer.
Mm.
And really, the first one is that the majority of them out there are made with natural flavors, which to me, in our
Yeah.
estimation, creates a lot of similarity across brands. And we decided that we wanted to make ours with real fruit so we
Mm.
could give people an opportunity to put something great that they
Yeah.
understand in their body. And I think we're also the
Mm.
first ones to really think about carbonation levels. And we call this the right amount of bubbles because I quit drinking 2.5 years ago, which is one of my whys. And I still want to watch college
Mhm.
football. I knew we needed something sessionable. And really, we wanted one that
Yeah.
had a voice and a tone that was different than everything else on the market. So, from a very high level, that's kind of how we think about
Yeah.
key.
Is that why you decided to put it in a can, just like a beer can or something?
Absolutely. Absolutely why. As we were
Mhm.
doing our market research, I think it's no surprise to people right now that a lot more people are considering abstaining from alcohol and a lot more
Yeah.
people are cutting back. And as we were talking to people, we found that there was this social stigma with not drinking. We had one guy even tell us that every party he went to, he would bring a Yeti
Mm.
with water in it, so
Yeah.
people didn't ask him why he wasn't drinking. So yes, we did play on the nostalgia of
Mhm.
emblematic branding. We wanted to look and feel maybe like, an old school Paps when the rest of the sparkling water market out there all looks very
Yeah.
similar, telling the same story to the same market. And we wanted
True.
to be different for different people.
Mm. Mm. It's it's interesting how there's like this whole trend now with all the, health gurus and like optimize your health and stop drinking and eat this and drink that and all of those things.
Yeah.
And your product can really appeal to this market. However, um, it's sparkling water with flavors, right?
Mhm.
So what makes, other than the fact that it's in a can and it has like the cool branding and all of that, like why would I, me personally, buy Key and not buy, I don't know, any club
Yeah.
soda brand or like any Pellegrino or Perrier or, of those European sparkling waters? Like what are you doing to differentiate yourself?
So from a flavored water perspective, greater than 80% of the sparkling waters in the United States are flavored with natural flavors. And nobody really knows what
Mm,
natural flavors are. And in our
yeah.
opinion, it gives a similar drinking experience across all the brands. We had one guy at a show tell us that, I'm going to butcher this, but he said it's like somebody attached a battery to a strawberry. And that really resonated with us because it's got kind of like that chemically metally type of taste.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we and
Yeah. So true.
right? And so using real
Yeah.
fruit using real fruit is harder. It's more expensive. It's
Hmm.
more volatile. But we thought it's the right thing to do. So you can look at our label and you know exactly what's on there. One, two. Um,
Mm,
all of the majority of the other brands out there use an extraordinary level of carbonation. So a lot of people would tell us, I don't drink sparkling water because it's way too carbonated. Well, we don't like all
Mm-hmm.
that carbonation either. We want you to want another one of them. We want, as the craft beer industry coined, uh, sessionable. We want you to be able to drink more than these at one time. So we use
Mm,
the right amount of bubbles. We have no added sugar in it too. So it's like
yeah.
it's a beverage that you could feel good about while you're drinking. You can feel good about
Yeah.
why you're drinking it, and it makes you feel a certain way, I think.
Mm. And it also, like from what I understand, it also hits all the health criteria, let's say like real fruits and,
Yes.
the sugar amount and all of those things
Very
that
very
don't
low
exist in
sugar.
any.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very low sugar, very low calories, and again,
Mm.
we're trying to give you the opportunity as a consumer to feel good about what you're drinking while you're making great decisions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So tell me a little bit more about when you started. Did you like how did you create the product? Did you have like different time? Like, did you try it for like a million time before
Yeah.
saying, okay, yeah, we're taking this to the public? How did you go with that?
So that's a question that I think could potentially have a lot of the answer could have a lot of depth because the R&D process leading up to launch is extremely intense. And then when we originally launched, we had some mistakes in our formula. And
Mm,
so the first iteration that we brought to market, we weren't in love with. So we've iterated 2 or 3 times across that process. We've changed partners. We use formulation partners. We actually use a company
mm-hmm,
now out of Chicago that we really enjoy working with. So really the process to get the liquid in the can right has been extraordinarily tedious, but we feel like it's the
mm-hmm.
most important process because we're going to make a
Yeah.
promise to you as the consumer to deliver you a beverage that you're going to love and you're going to pay for. So we put a ton of effort into that. I think the biggest challenge of the business has been finding the right manufacturing partners because there's so much
Mm,
variability in the manufacturing of sparkling water. And I think the average consumer would have no clue how challenging it is to get that liquid and the carbonation right inside of the can. So
yeah.
yes, we've taken tons of time, and really the way we think about getting the beverage and the liquid in the can correct is it's a continuous process. So
Mm,
we're talking about it daily. We're interacting with our partners daily, and we're on this path to continuous improvement at all times.
mm-hmm. So what happened when you launched the version you didn't like? Did you get like a backlash from people, or was it just you that you didn't like the product?
Yeah, so I don't want to say that we got a backlash. We did have people talk to us about the individual flavors, but it didn't meet our standard. Put it this way,
Mm,
um, it wasn't so far off our standard that the business failed. It was
okay.
okay. We have something here. We have areas for opportunity for improvement. People that see the vision of the brand stuck with us, which has allowed us to continue to grow. So I think because we are building this brand out loud with a very tight
Yeah.
community that's looking to support us.
Mm-hmm.
I think the consumer understands that people stub their toe. You stub your toe in every aspect of life, so why wouldn't we stub our toe
Yes.
as we're bringing something to life for the consumer
Exactly.
to enjoy? So I guess
Yeah.
said succinctly, we got very good feedback both from people that loved it and people that had ideas for improvement. And I think what we're the most proud of is that we listened and we weren't hard headed saying that, no, we know better. You guys don't know what you're talking about.
Mm,
We listened to the
mm,
consumer and we iterated.
yeah. That's I had a guest on the podcast who talked about the same point, not exactly failing, like a
Yeah.
product failing or changing a formulation or anything, just the concept that how small businesses have more strength in certain areas against the big corporations.
Yeah.
So the big corporations, if they want to launch, I don't know, any even a video or like a TikTok, it takes them months to produce it, and it has to be validated by 5 million people in the company and the agencies and all of that. While small businesses, it's more like, let's go, let's try this today. And you put something out there, but it doesn't have like a crazy negative impact because you're still small and you can make mistakes,
Yeah.
like mistakes, not real mistakes. But the same applies to like your formulation. So if you were, I don't know, like a very big company, it would have been a disaster maybe, or like changing the formulation would have been something that will create much more impact than when you're smaller, you can still improve and make things better with very minimum impact. So it just reminded me of that conversation.
Yeah.
Um, did you, out of curiosity, did you start this with like your own money or did you
Yeah.
get funding? How did you do it?
Yeah, so we've started this with our own money. We've taken zero funding.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the last 20 years of our career has put us in a position where we were able to self-fund this project from the start.
All right.
We do have a line of sight to the future as we look to scale. We will have
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to go out for investment and bring other people along on this mission with us. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think and I think the interesting part about that is that when we say we funded it ourselves, it's not because anybody gave us money. It's because we put in the time, we put in the effort and energy to build our careers, to learn, to save, to do some
Yeah.
extraordinary things, which allowed us to be able to take this risk.
Exactly. And using your past experience probably to apply it in your own venture now.
Yeah, yes, and I think what the past experience does for us is more than anything, it tells us what to watch out for. It doesn't prevent us from
Mm-hmm.
making mistakes. It's we made some
Of
mistakes in the
course.
we don't want to make the same exact mistakes that we've made in the past, but we're going to make plenty of mistakes we have, and so
Mm, mm.
I think experience has allowed us the wisdom to cope and iterate through mistakes more than it
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
to prevent mistakes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Speaking of the past, what did you do before going towards key?
Yeah. So quick resume overview, I guess. So right out of college, I worked at a home for abused, neglected, and delinquent youth on Detroit's East Side, where we had 40
Mm,
boys aged 12 to 18, and um, we kind of helped them become adults. Everything from education to how to shop to how to take care of yourself, and it was an
mm.
extremely rewarding career for me.
Yeah, that's
But what,
nice.
yeah, while I was doing that, I went back to school and eventually started working with Cisco, SYSCO, the food service company, and I worked there for just over 15 years. And my last
Okay.
capacities, I was president of operating companies. So I ran Cisco Western Minnesota, and I ran an operating company
Mm-hmm.
in upstate New York. And then from there, I met the founder of Death Wish Coffee, and we immediately hit it off. And over time, we kind of looked at each other and said, "Hey, I think there's an opportunity here to help each other." And so after a year of meeting in secret and putting together plans, I agreed to come work with Mike Brown and really scale Death Wish Coffee to this place where I don't know how much you know about them, but they are an amazing brand. They have a remarkable following and they've done some amazing things in an also crowded
Mm-hmm.
category of coffee. They were the first
Yeah.
people of a brand of coffee, been around 450 years, to differentiate by caffeine. And
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to be able to scale that team and that business to a place where we had a very successful investment from private
Mm-hmm.
equity, and really set that company up for long term success, which gave me the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to take this risk and to enter into
Yeah.
a different category and really surround ourselves with people that we care about, and we get up and work every day with a team that is all rowing in the same direction, wants the same things, and that's
Mm-hmm.
really just to make a positive
Yeah.
impact on the consumer.
Yeah. So you weren't very far off, you were somehow in the same space. So
Yeah.
it's sort of easy. It's not easy, but easier than
Yeah.
other people to just create a new brand.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the brand, the Key brand. First
Yes.
of all, why did you decide to call it Key? Like what does it mean?
So we had a vision for what was inside the can and what it would do for the consumer and how we could differentiate and how we could bring kind of joy. And as we talked
Mhm.
about the benefits of ours over everybody else's, we were sitting there saying, "Man, that's the key to being able to A. That's the key to B. That's the key to C." And we were
Mm,
like, "Oh my goodness, it's right there in front of us. This is Key sparkling water." And
yeah.
and then we surfaced that with some people. It quickly resonated. It meant something to everybody. It was easy to remember. We could visualize how it would show up as a brand. So really,
Mm-hmm.
as we incubate this brand over time, we want to be uh, our new tagline is phone, wallet, key, right? Like we want to be top of
Oh,
mind
yeah.
every time you leave the house, So
I love this. So did you go by, I mean, did you do all like the branding part and the marketing and all of that by yourself, or did you have someone help you, this graphic designer or like a marketing agency? I don't know, just anyone?
So we've done 90% of it by ourselves. What we haven't
Mm-hmm.
done by ourselves is um, we have partnered with an amazing graphic designer who brought our logo, our label, our
Yeah.
packaging, all of that to life for us. He's really amazing. So, but other than that, uh, we are working really hard as a bootstrapped mentality startup to do as many of these things as humanly possible by ourselves. And we're
Mm-hmm.
getting we're
Mm-hmm.
getting to the point now as the business grows and starts to scale where that's going to become irresponsible pretty soon. So
Yeah, yeah.
we'll have to
Well,
we'll have
that's
to bring some
nice. Yeah.
progress in. Mhm.
Mhm. So what do you do in terms of marketing? Do you do email? Do you do social media? Like what channels do you use?
It's funny that you say that. So like on our whiteboard here, we talk about what are the ways that people find out about us because we live in a world
Mm,
that competes for attention. And the answer is yes, we do all of those. So you can find us on Amazon. So we participate with Amazon ads. We have Meta ads running at all times. We use all
yeah,
forms. We have Google ads running. We do in-person activations. We're big believers in experiential marketing because if we can
yeah,
tie a moment to a product, especially a very
mm,
positive moment, you'll think about us
yeah,
more than you'll think about other people. We've partnered with some influencer comedians. We've partnered with podcasts. We're working as much as possible to speak to great people like you to tell our story. So
hmm.
we're using all forms of, I guess, all forms of generally accepted ways to grow brand awareness.
So mainly you're everywhere. Let's
Yes.
now that
Yeah. Yeah.
you're telling me basically everywhere. Do you try to sell more online, or is it more like in real life, in, I don't know, restaurants, even bars? Maybe if somebody is not drinking, they can grab a key, or like events. Like, where is your focus?
I love that question. So we are very intentional about that. So we're thinking about that in a couple different lanes. First of all, we think there are three different routes to the consumer. D2C, that allows us to
Yeah,
talk directly to our customer and tell our story and cultivate a following. Amazon, where you have to be because it's
yeah,
the world's largest retailer. We're walking up and
yeah,
down the digital
yeah.
aisles. And then in retail, in grocery. So we get to tell our story, be present where people shop, and then scale the brand through retail. So
Mm,
we were able to, at the beginning of this year, land our first major regional grocery chain. We're able to be found in Coburn's out of Minnesota. They have been an
mm,
amazing partner to us. So we have full distribution in all 52 of their stores. That is our incubation to be able to go
great.
to the
Yeah.
rest of the world. Key Sparkling Waters is our D2C, where we have the ability to talk directly to them. We've formed here, we're out of upstate New York, and
Yeah.
we formed a relationship with a major DSD uh, in this area, which will allow us to, yes, get into bars and restaurants as the non-alcoholic alternative, to allow us to
Mm,
interact with our regional chains and really grow the brand through that. So I don't like using the word, but we do have this like omni-channel approach to growing the brand and scaling, and each individual
yeah.
channel has its own purpose for the brand.
Yeah, that's really amazing, because when a brand is relatively small, it's difficult to manage everything at once or to do all the efforts at once.
Mhm.
But if you have like partners to get you into, let's say, restaurants and bars, and other ones to get you into supermarkets and all of those places, it's really helpful. Um, I have a question that I ask almost everybody, but I think you already answered it. I don't know if you have any other failed attempts or like money wasted.
Oh yeah,
Um,
oh
yeah,
yeah.
other than the formulation thing.
Okay, so we wasted money on formulation thing. We had a co-packer challenge. But here's one. I'm going to give you, this is like the one that I think resonates the most with our internal team, is that we're already changing our tagline. So when we first launched, and there's a lesson to this that I think will resonate with any entrepreneur. When we first launched, we were Key Sparkling Water, as tough as you can make bubbles,
Yeah.
because our thought was this. Our thought was we're going to target males 25 to 54, as studies have showed us, targeting very directly your consumer will bring the tangential consumers around them. So we knew exactly who we wanted to target. And we
Mm.
kind of wanted to make fun of ourselves by saying, listen, this is as tough as you can make bubbles. Like, we know that this is sparkling
Yeah.
water. We're targeting dudes with this sparkling water,
Yeah.
but this is as tough as you can make bubbles. And what we found was it took people too much time to put it together. So we were too cute. We were
Mm.
too creative for our
Mm.
own good. And
Yeah.
we have since switched to phone wallet key, which has resonated with nearly everybody, which still allows us to talk directly to the same consumer.
Mm.
And it has cost money, time, effort to unwind one that didn't make sense to people and
Mhm.
work this second one in, especially as a
Yeah.
startup when as you produce assets that have your old tagline on it.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah,
just
yeah,
talking
yeah.
the other day, like how do we sunset these assets? So we're trying to find
Mm.
creative ways to do so while be able to tell our cohesive, forward-looking brand story. So I think, if you took it outside of the supply chain aspect of our business, that was
Yeah.
probably our biggest toe stub.
More like a positioning
Yeah.
issue, let's call it.
Yeah.
Uh,
We were confusing, and like brands, like I think confusing brands go off to pasture to die. And so like we're trying
mm.
to be as
Yeah.
like we have this much time to capture your attention.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The when it's simple, it's better.
Yeah,
T
absolutely, absolutely. And we own it. We now somehow own the trademark to phone wallet key, which we're really excited about.
Perfect, perfect. You mentioned targeting a very specific demographic.
Yeah.
What happened? Now do you have any information about who's actually buying your product and consuming it? Is it
Yes, we
really
do.
your target or did it expand to like other categories of people?
So it expands to other categories of people. And I could give you real life data to support the argument. So when I was with Death Wish, I was fortunate enough to participate in a study with Bain, where Bain looked at 120 plus insurgent brands. They gave that a criteria for the previous few years. And they found 5 points of DNA that they said they all had. And number one
Mm,
was they had a very defined core consumer, which they talked almost exclusively to that core consumer. And then what happens is they bring the people in their sphere around them to grow the brand. Death Wish Coffee is a great example. If anybody on
yeah.
that's listening is familiar with the aesthetic, it's very rough. It's like your inner rock star. The label's the skull and
Mm-hmm.
crossbones. It's talking very directly to that sarcastic
Yeah.
35-year-old male, right? Well, 54% of Death Wish consumers 2 years ago, I don't know where it's at today, but 54% of Death Wish consumers were men. So it proved out that concept that Bain showed us. And I think we're
Mm,
experiencing that exact same thing with us. Because
yeah.
when you figure out who you are, who you're talking to, it allows people that you're not speaking to understand how to rationalize and interact with your brand.
Yeah, so true. It's a little bit also like Lululemon. When it started, it was just like yogis, in
Yeah,
British Columbia in a very specific area. And then it expanded. Now it's like moms and,
yeah,
the housewives and all
yeah.
of these
And
people. And
dads.
dads, now,
Yeah,
yeah, all like most of my friends, like guy friends, they buy everything from Lululemon. Like it wasn't a men thing; it was like just women and housewives and all of that. So
great
things
example.
expand and change. Yeah, things expand and change the more you do it. Um, Mike, we're approaching the end of this episode, so I'm gonna ask you like three questions that I ask all my guests,
Ooh,
just
like
because
it.
I'm curious about about that. Are you ready?
Yes.
So, how would your friends describe what you do for a living?
Insanity. Um, they would say it's insane, that it's crazy, that it's chaos. But
All
if you're
right.
asking, if you're asking, oh, if you're asking like what I do for a living, that's specific. I think they would tell you that I put teams together, I set direction, and I empower teams to win in their way.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's not so bad. I've had like the craziest answers for this,
Yeah.
so yours is fine.
Yeah.
Um, what's one thing that your product did for a client that you didn't expect?
Got them sober again. So
Ooh.
we're talking, as part of our use case is that we're an alcohol alternative, and we had somebody that one of our customers had fallen off the wagon and found key and was exposed to key, and
Mm-hmm.
it gave them, I'm not saying it's all key, but it gave them their outlet,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting. I knew we wanted to exist for that group, but to be able to see
Mm-hmm.
directly and helping a human being become a better version of themselves,
Yeah.
that was great.
Yeah. I love this. Question number three: is there a book or maybe a podcast that changed your life and you would recommend to our audience?
Oh goodness. Well, you know what I'm really into right now, and this is going to sound crazy, but I'm into this podcast called The Y Files, talking about like the origins of the universe. But a book that changed my life, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People,
Mm-hmm.
was one that I read really early on, and the other one is First Break All the Rules, which is a book that by Gallup that takes a look at the world's best managers to understand what they do differently. So those would be the
Okay.
two that we, and the podcast. I know it's not related to this, but it's a really good
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's out
Yeah.
there, but so yeah, I would say those two books from a professional standpoint. I mean, I read them a long
Mm-hmm.
time ago, and I revisit them every once in a while. But I think they're both very impactful.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious. I always ask my guests about books. A lot of times I get influenced by a book, but it's only temporary. Like after a while, I forget about
Mhm.
what I read. Is that something that happens to you?
No. Well, yes, but in those two books, no, because First Break All the
Mm,
Rules, what everybody does differently, what resonates with me that I think about all the time from that
yeah.
book is the fact that too many leaders try to figure out where people's skill gaps are and try to fix the skill gaps. But the world's best
Mm,
leaders, they find where your strengths are and they figure out how to leverage your strengths. And then Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, one of those habits is begin with the end in mind. And every single thing that we do
yeah.
from building this business, like we built this business beginning with unit economics in mind. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but so I think those two resonate with me so much because while
Mm,
I have a tendency to have fleeting memories of books, those two have stuck.
yeah. Okay, that's pretty amazing. We're going to link to them. Maybe somebody will be inspired and read it. Tell us where we can find Key. Is it just in Canada? Is it just in the US?
Yeah.
And, where, how can people buy it and where they can connect with you?
Sure. So today you can find us at keysparklingwater.com. We'll deliver directly to your house. You can find us on Amazon. And if you live in upstate New York, you can find us scattered throughout. And if you live in Minnesota,
Mm.
we're in Coburn's. But right now, we're working on our distribution, and we hope to be national here within the next year. So, yeah.
All right. So it's all over the US.
Yes, ma'am.
Almost. Okay, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna recommend you to some of my friends there since we can't get them here. I'll be in DC in June. I'm gonna make sure
Oh,
to
yes.
try it to try it there. All right, that's pretty amazing. Thank you, Mike, for being a guest on the podcast, and to all the listeners. I'll be back next week with a new episode.